What's up, guys? Matt Brown here for TheLines.com, PlayPicks.com, joined by Steven Andrus. If you want to follow Steven on Twitter, at StevenAndrus1, me, Matt Brown, M2. We are here for your Week 11 Survivor picks. And if you are watching this video, congrats to you, because you survived the carnage that has been the last 2 weeks. I would have been gone not once, but twice this week. If I'd had 2 entries left, I'd have played one on the Ravens and I'd have played one on the Steelers, and I would have been gone twice this week. And so I, for 100%, would have been eliminated. So if you are still around, good on you. Steven, what we saw was just complete carnage, as I mentioned, between what happened with the Ravens on Thursday night, what happened with the Steelers with the tie, what happened with the Rams losing, what happened with, everybody losing was just a massive, massive hit on the Survivor games this week. And what that does is just leave us, with a few different options here. If I run down the odds as we are looking here right now, I mean, look, there's a 7-point favorite, a 7.5-point favorite in the Bills, but you probably have either already used them or want to save them. The Browns are 10-point favorites at home against the Lions. The Titans are 10.5-point favorites against the Texans. As we scroll down a little bit further, there's a out of the box pick. I guess the 49ers are 6.5-point favorites over the Jags. And then as you get down, the Bucks are 11-point favorites over the Giants this week. But that really does it as far as the big favorites. So whenever we get over here to this article that Mo puts out, the 3 big favorites, it's the Bucks, Titans, and Browns. And, look, I don't love any of them, but I know we got to play one of them. So it kind of is what it is, I mean, if I look here at what's available, let's just look at the Circa Survivor availability matrix. If you look over here, the Bucks are available by only 79 of the remaining entries. And so less, like fewer than half the people remaining even have the Bucks left. If we look at Tennessee, now 98% of the people remaining, 171 of the people remaining do have the Tennessee Titans remaining. With them playing the way that they're playing, Steven, and them being as big a favorites as they are against the lowly Houston Texans, this has to be just the slam dunk play of the week, right?
It will be for most people, Matt. If we're looking at the popularity of the picks for this week across all of the platforms, you're looking at close to 50% of remaining entries that are probably or projected right now to be picked on the Tennessee Titans. So that's something else to keep in mind too at this point, because we're at the end game now, Matt. Do you want to take a team that is going to be close to 50% picked out of the remaining entries, or is that a really good leverage spot for you to try and take a chance and find somebody else? Because the other equation here with the Titans, and I know that you and I are separated a little bit with our current opinion of the Titans. I think that their offense is an issue still, and I know.
Oh, no, it is for sure.
Yeah,
it is for sure.
And they are playing the Houston Texans, but we're talking about a Titans offense that has been well below average in terms of yards per play in a couple of weeks now in a row since they lost Derrick Henry. They'll probably get by the Texans, right? They're a 10-point favorite, but we've also seen this script before with bad offenses this year in Survivor who did not win the game, even despite being big favorites. So personally, for me, I think it's a great leverage spot to not pick the Titans. They also still have another game against Houston at the end of the season. They still have Jacksonville and Miami, and maybe even the Steelers as a decent option down the road here. So I think they actually have future value a lot more than, say, the Cleveland Browns this week.
They do have the easiest remaining schedule of the teams in football right now. And so whenever you take a look at that, there certainly is. It just depends. If the counterpoint to that would be, though, if you don't think they're any good, then the only time you want to use them is against the team that is actually the worst team in the NFL, right? As far as Houston Texans. So like saving them as far as future value goes, it'd be a different story if they had Derrick Henry, if they had Julio Jones, but we know Julio's on IR. He's at least going to have to miss the next 2 games minimum. So I think the Titans have to be the play this week for me, because I don't want to have to use them again, to be perfectly honest. Like, and while we think like we're kind of heading towards the end, I mean, look, we got 8 weeks left of this thing. So yeah. I don't think getting cute as far as like playing playing like leverage things and playing like game theory at this point, especially with the carnage that we've seen so far in this. Like, there's not very many people left as it is anyway. So I would allow people to kind of make their own mistakes, at least for the next few weeks. And then you can start playing the game theory game. The other obvious choice would be the Browns. The Browns 10-point favorites as well against Detroit. If we look at Circa, Cleveland is available for 98 of the remaining teams, which is 57% of the remaining teams. So Tennessee, basically every team has Tennessee left. 99% of the entries still have Tennessee left. If we look over here at Cleveland, about 57%. So about half the entries still have Cleveland available. So the question will become kind of like you're saying, if of those people that do have Cleveland remaining, do they find any future value in Tennessee, or are they just want to fade Tennessee because they know that it's going to be such an incredibly popular pick? I mean, from what we saw this past week from this Detroit Lions team, Steven, as bad as the Browns looked, and trust me, I was on them. They looked horrible. I mean, it looked like it was, we always get these, like, we know what the good Browns look like. We know what the bad Browns look like. And when the bad Browns show up, it is a horrible, horrible team. That being said, even if the bad Browns show up, shouldn't they be able to beat the Lions?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns to me are kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They have a lot of talent on that roster, and it's just a question of can they beat good teams? And when they play a bad team, they have tended to just beat up on them, right? I mean, the Browns are, if you look at their schedule, they've beaten bad teams and not much else. And they've had some health issues along the way here. But, I mean, we're still talking about a Detroit Lions team that could not win a game, or, still – I think they had, less than 3 yards net passing against the Steelers last week. I mean, they can't move the ball through the air whatsoever at this point, this Lions team. So I'm not scared to pick them at this point. I think the Browns can just dominate in the run game in this one and just kind of get out of there with an easy win.
So if you look, I mean, if you want to talk about having no future value remaining, like the way that this Browns team is played and the way that they play up and down, and you certainly don't want to be in crunch time and have to use the Browns. So I think if you're one of those 57% of the remaining entries over in Circa that has them remaining, or if you're in your pool, listen, once you get past Detroit this week, Baltimore, Las Vegas, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. Again, maybe you feel comfortable playing them against Pittsburgh, but that's way down in week 17. Tough. Yeah, that's way down in week 17. You might not make it that far, right? Like you got to kind of be thinking about what's the next 3 or 4 weeks as to whether you'd feel comfortable playing them again or not. And the answer is no. And so I think, I think now, Steven, that you look at this, I mean, now that we kind of talk it through, yes, the Titans, I don't love them in their current iteration, but at least you do have some teams along the way with that Titan squad that you would at least feel fairly decent rolling them out against. You're not going to feel decent rolling this Browns team out again the rest of the season, really, if you don't play them this week against the Lions. So if you are one of the teams that have them, I think that is the way to go. If you don't, then I would be on the Titans. And as far as the Bucs go, I mean, I understand, like, I don't like what I'm seeing from this Bucs defense. I think this Bucs defense is actually a pretty big liability right now, and it's not any fault of their own. Look, they lost guys to injury, and in the secondary, they basically have a whole new secondary out there. But you got this Giants team coming off of a bye. Saquon Barkley's back practicing. These wide receivers that have been nicked up the whole time had a bye week to get healthy. I think of the 3 big favorites, the Bucs would be third in my pecking order, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
I agree with you, mostly just because of future value. I mean, let this Bucs team get right. I have faith that they are going to play better as the closer we get to the playoffs here. They're a little banged up with their offensive weapons and trying to get Gronk and Antonio Brown back. And if you look at their schedule, they still have games against Atlanta, who, despite the record, I think is one of the worst teams in the NFL. Still have another game against the Saints, which I know they lost to them already, but they get them at home this time, and that's still a suspect offense to me. And still 2 games left against Carolina and the New York Jets. So that's a ton of future value for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point. I think they'll beat the Giants this week, so I don't blame you if you want to use them this week and try and if you think that the Browns or the Titans are vulnerable and you want to try and play leverage here, but you'll be sacrificing a decent amount of future value here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would prefer to take the Browns over the Bucs this week.
Of the players left in Circuit Survivor, a little less than half still have the Bucs as an option. So of this other tier here, I mean, listen, I'm not playing any of those. I think, listen, 99% of people have Tennessee left, so I don't know why you'd have to dip into this tier, but we can discuss them very, very quickly. Bills are, 7.5 over the Colts. You got the Ravens that are 6.5 over the Bears. You got the Patriots that are 6.5, 7-ish over the Falcons. And then you've got the 49ers that are favorites over the Jags. I would not roll any one of those out. Again, I'm playing Tennessee 100 times over before I play any one of these teams. I mean, look, the Colts have enough spunk that if the bad Bills show up, the Colts could win that game. That's not a question. We've seen the Ravens that if you blitz the hell out of Lamar Jackson and whatever, like we've seen what you can do against this team. I imagine Chicago's going to employ the same strategy in that game. I don't know. I think the 49ers win against Jacksonville. We've seen Jacksonville really not show up on the offensive side of the ball all season long, but I'm not near as comfortable as any of these guys as I am with the ones that we've just talked about.
I'm concerned with the 49ers this week just because they have had a tendency to lay eggs this year, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they got blown out by a backup quarterback against Arizona. Yep. They lost by multiple scores to the Colts at home. They lost to Seattle. So, I mean, they've not shown up week to week this year. And on top of that, their starting running back, Eli Mitchell, had a procedure on his finger done this week. So who knows if he's going to play with that finger issue and potential fumble issues. Deebo Samuel, their top, he's been like their Devontae Adams. He's been used so much this year and gotten so many balls this year. Now he's dealing with a shin injury, apparently. So they're not coming into this game at 100% either. So coming off a big primetime spot like that at home and getting a huge win wouldn't shock me in the least if they don't come out as focused this week against Jacksonville. And then the only one of this group that I would maybe consider here is the New England Patriots, because you're getting far less projected pick here than the top tier teams that we were talking about. I mean, we're looking at maybe less than 5% of teams taking the Patriots this week. And after the Falcons, they have Tennessee, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Buffalo. You have to wait till week 17 where they have Jacksonville and Miami before I would feel really comfortable taking them again. And they get it is a short week on the road, which is always scary. But the Falcons, despite their record, like we mentioned briefly earlier, like they're at the bottom of DVOA. Calvin Ridley's not playing. Cordarrelle Patterson, if he doesn't play, and it's trending like he's not going to, and at the very least, he's going to not be anywhere near 100% with this ankle injury. I mean, what offense do they have left? I mean, you telling me that Kyle Pitts is not going to get double teamed by Bill Belichick with all these other weapons missing?
Yeah, that's going to be, yes. Like it is that Kyle Pitts might only have two catches in this game or something like that.
Yeah, and the market
has triple team him.
And the market has been all over this. This line has moved from 5.5. It's up to 7 now. We might get 7.5 by kickoff. So, there's zero confidence in the Falcons to do anything in this game.
So for me, guys, if I had the Browns left, I would play them. I understand that only about 50% of you do. So if I had the Browns left, I would play them. If I did not, my next tier would be the Titans. I would go ahead and play the Titans this week against Houston. I would actually then go down and play the Patriots if I had them as far as power rankings go, third, and then up to the Bucs at fourth as far as my power rankings go this week. Out of those 4 teams, you definitely have one of those 4 teams left, so I don't think you need to go any further than those 4. Steven, I think you were somewhere in the same. If the Browns were still available to you, you would go Browns, then Titans.
Yeah, I'm basically the same as you this week, but with the exception that I'm actually going to just not play the Titans this week because I think they have some future value. I think that they can get better as they get healthier in future weeks here. And I'm at a point now where potentially half of the entries in the pool or close to half of the entries are going to take the Titans. with an offense that right now I think is vulnerable to lose a game and play a stinker. So I want to try and take advantage of that potential leverage. Cleveland would be my top pick at close to maybe more than 50% fewer picks than the Titans this week is how I should probably put that. And then I'm on New England. So Browns, New England. And then after that, I'd probably, I'd want to save Tampa Bay. So if I'm really digging deep here and going down the board, maybe the Chargers against Pittsburgh with Mason Rudolph would be my next pick here.
Interesting. So, guys, that's how we're going to play Survivor this week in all of this. I mean, it is, if you've made it this far, again, we did it at the top, but hey, tip of the old cap to you, because you have dodged a minefield so far this season. And I mean, that is incredibly impressive, because this has been just completely wacky. Guys, as always, everything we do over at the Lines Play Picks, absolutely free. So be sure and head over there. You'll find this article with all the Survivor breakdowns, the odds page that I'm showing you right here. Just click on the odds up at the top right there. It'll take you right here. And then you can find your state as well. All these awesome sign-up offers. So deposit matches, free bets, risk-free bets, all that other stuff. You take advantage of all that. Like, as many outs as you can possibly have, the better it is, because that is the way you can become a more successful sports bettor, taking advantage of all the little edges that are available to you out there. And then, of course, lastly, up here in this right-hand corner, you're going to find a Discord button. We do have a Discord channel now. We're talking about different little things. We're talking about the NFL as we head into the week. We're talking about college basketball. We're talking about everything. So be sure and get into Discord as well. For Steven, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.